Hey, welcome back to my 1949 Willys pickup project. It's 1 week to Thanksgiving. We got a little bit of snow yesterday, and I think it's going to stick around. We don't have much warm weather coming in the next 10 days. But let's take a look and see what we're working on this time around. My buddy Guy is coming back out today, and we're going to continue work on this cab. And what we want to do is take out some of these dents that we couldn't get to. A lot of these I can't reach with the hammer and dolly. But I don't know if you can see this. There is a crease running the whole length of this. And it came from when that door swung open and caught this. So we already took care of this on the other side. We're going to take care of it on this side, and we'll come back and show you the results. Okay, we're as done as we're going to get on this. I think we used up just about all the small pins that came with that stud welder. But we started up here, worked our way down. It's hard to tell on the video, but if I put a straight edge on this, you can see it's far better than it was, and good enough now that we can skim coat this with body filler. All right, we continue. We're working here hard to get this thing ready to put some primer on. And there's lots of little prep jobs to do. And, you know, we used the stud puller and took most of what all of what we needed to take out of this. And now we're just getting some body filler on here. It's just our first pass to try to smooth this out. So we've got to start on that. One of the other things that I want to do is finish up all the little jobs that might involve welding, because once this thing's in primer, I don't want to be grinding off and doing any more work. I want this thing to move right from primer to paint. So one of the jobs I need to do is I want to get these doors back on and make sure that we've all got good fitment. And so the way the doors mount, if you look right through here, you can see these little plates, and they're adjustable. So that's good. Now you notice this one, there's a little pocket in here that basically just a plate of steel that's threaded drops down into that so it can float. I'll show you what that looks like. Here's one right here. So that just drops down inside and floats in there. Now, the problem I have is over here on the driver's side, all of these little pockets are either broken, missing, or loose. So I've got to fix every one of these before I can even try to mount a door. So this is what this little plate looks like. It kind of sits, let me get up here, this sits down inside of there. So what I'm going to do is make up some new plates, and then I'll drill through here, slide them back into place, and plug weld them. Once I got that done, I made up some of these too because some of them were in tough shape. Just took some thick steel, drilled it out, and tapped it, so I'll be able to drop these in place. Let's work our way from the bottom up. On the bottom here, this little retainer is in good shape. All I really did, just dropped it right through. I'll have to fish that out. Okay, that answers one question. I was hoping I could just drop it in place here, but the retainer on the bottom appears to be bent or missing. This next one up here, if you can see through, let me get some light on this. It's in there, it's attached on this side, but it's let go on this side. So I think on this one, I can just drill a few holes, clamp this back in, and plug weld it. Here's what I'm working on so far. First thing I did was tried to bend the bottom of this piece that was still attached when you saw that nut drop through. And there's just no way to get behind that and bend it. So I drilled it out and removed it, and I'll just make a new one for here. This one was only broken off, or really just the spot weld had broken on this side. So I drilled a couple of big holes, and before I drilled those shut, I pushed it open and stuffed one of these nuts, let's see if you get a better look, one of these nuts up in there. Then I clamped it back down and plug welded it. So this guy's done. So now I need to make similar plates for here and for both of these up here. And I've got, I fished this thing out of the bottom with a magnet that was down inside that hole. Looks like this one is just kind of broken off on that edge. Here's another one that's kind of the same. What I did do is the one that came off of here was intact. So I just grabbed a hammer and flattened it out. And so now I've got a pattern. So I will make some of these shapes out of sheet metal. And then I'll use this as a guide to bend them back into shape so that I can put them in. All right, here's the clip that I fabbed up. Pretty simple process. And then this is the nut. It's going to drop in just like this, and it leaves enough room for it to move around for adjustment. Now I just need to put the nut in there, get this behind, get this in behind here, clamp it down and weld it. Okay, we got everything set in. It's all plug welded. Capture nut is in there. I threw a bolt in here just to see where it lands. And that's supposed to be like that. That way you got room to adjust for the doors. So I'll just finish up these two now. Now that we're done with this repair, pulling all this out and getting our body filler on both sides. We still got work to do, but we've taken care of that crease on both sides. Now, how do we keep that crease from coming back? Let me show you how this works. This is my parts truck, but they are all, it seems like all of them are like this. You see this crease that runs all the way down here. You can see if you swing the door all the way, you get out of the light there, that's where it makes contact and it puts that nice crease in there. And they're all like this. This anchor is pulled out and this little retainer is just stuffed inside. It's the same story on this side. You can see it starts up here, runs all the way down. It's all caved in. Now this one, a little better idea of what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to have a little retainer in here and an anchor, and you can see here, this one they've welded it back in. Well, as you can see, both of my anchors are pulled out on this one. But guy came up with a better idea, and I think I'm going to go with it. Let me show you what I'm thinking here. Okay, for starters, I'm thinking about using just a length of ratchet strap as my limiter for that door. It's pretty primitive, but I've seen it done before, so I know it'll work. So all I need is something to anchor it. So imagine that this is anchored to that A-pillar on the truck. And then I would have a footman loop against the, basically mounted on the door. So we get this loop here. When it closes, this thing just kind of flips out of the way, but when it's open, this would keep it from extending too far. Okay, we're in the truck right now. There is a channel that runs right here along the A-pillar. So I think what we can do is tuck that rod. I've got some 3/8 rod here. Just tuck that right in. What guy was suggesting is maybe we cut a notch out here so it's not just sitting on that sharp edge. But this is, I think, an ideal anchor spot. Now we just got to figure out how to get this locked in. All right, here's what I think will work. I made up some plate. Whoops. I just made up some plates. And this rod can be welded right to that plate. And that plate then can go right here and get screwed right into this pillar. I think we could use some riv nuts, and this would work great. And then this plate would kind of disappear behind the kick panel anyway. All right, these are the plates, and I'm kind of on the back side of this. We'll throw that over there for now. So I'm thinking it's going to look something like this. I just got to weld along here and here, and then these plates can bolt right into that kick panel or on that side panel. Now we got one little problem that I was thinking about is once this gets welded, first of all, I hate to try to weld it with this nylon strap on here. I'm afraid some of this heat might get into that and want to melt it. But even if I can do that, if I ever have to replace that strap, it's going to be tough to do because these are joined together. There's no way to slip this in over the top of these. But I have a solution for that. I've got just some old lamp material. I can't remember what kind of lamp this came off of, but it was one where you could put these extensions on. They just screw together, and so that you could adjust the length of the post on the lamp by doing that. We never had to use these, but I saved them. So I think what we can do with this is weld one of these to each side and be able to screw them together. And if I ever have to replace this, I can take these off of the truck and just unscrew it, put my new strap in, screw them back together. That's going to work. It's probably overkill, but when I think about the force of that door, I just don't want to take any chances. So now I just have to move on to the doors, and I'll probably fit the doors up first so I know what length to make this, and I can install those footman loops. Just got a few more items I need to take care of before we can get this cab into primer and then on to paint. So I'm trying to take care of everything I wouldn't want to do once there's paint on this. So I pretty much thought I was finished with my welding, but there's one more task I need there. But really want to focus on finishing up, cleaning up the interior here, getting all of this paint off. And you can see I've already been up underneath there, but I need to get this paint off so that there's nothing left to do inside. And then I also have to strip all the rest of the paint off. I started here already and got this cab or this A pillar, B pillar done, but I need to get the rest of that. And a couple other items. There are, as part of cleaning up the inside, there are braces here. There's 3 lower braces and then 2 right below the windows. I've already pulled them off. So they just come out like this. These bottom braces have 2 bolts on the bottom and 2 on the top. So I was able to get those out. The complication on these is, I think, 5 of these bolts broke off. You can see the dark spot where I heated them and tried some different things, but I ended up having to drill them out and rethread them, but they're all done. So now as I clean this off, I'm unobstructed. I don't have to work around anything. Now, the other thing I remembered that I need to do is the seat belts. When I put seat belts in this, I want 3-point belts, and it never came with those. And so the tricky part, let's get inside here, I'll show you. The tricky part is I've got to have a mount point somewhere up in this pillar that's strong enough to hold the shoulder belt. So I'm going to need to cut this out, make a plate, and slip it up inside there. I think I'm done for the day. I put a couple hours in, maybe 2.5, I don't think 3, working with both of these items. And I got most of the paint off the back of the cab, and that was a job. That paint, this has got at least three layers of paint. It's got the original gray, then it was white, then it was red. And the red paint that they put on this thing last was really thick and really tough. So I've been at this for quite a while. But I got most of the paint off of it. Found a few spots that we're going to have to work on. There's one there. A few other dents that showed up. Didn't see them until the paint was off. Let's see. Where is it? There's one right there. You can see it. But I'll keep going. Did some work on the inside too. Kind of stripped out that side. I've got this to do. I did a little bit of cleanup on the back here, but I've got a lot more to do there. It's just kind of detailed work because it's tight quarters. So I'll keep at this until it's done. Take a quick spot check. I think the gap here looks pretty good. This was my biggest concern, was that new rocker, and it looks like we're good there. Up on the top of the door, it starts getting a little wonky. I should say at the top here too, that gap is really consistent, but it's kind of sticking out. Starting about here. And if we come around this side on back, we're really sticking out. I suspect this door is out of whack. So I'm going to put a straight edge on and compare it with some other doors and see where we're at. On the passenger side, we got to start on the door. The gaps aren't bad here either, so I think we're heading in the right direction. We get the exact same problem on this door where the top is kicked way out. We're doing a little better down here. So we're going to do a little more adjusting, and then I'll show you how we take care of this problem up here. Okay, we got the doors on. It took us a long time, lots of adjusting, but we were able to fix that little problem. And the way we did it, we adjusted the hinges as much as we could, and it was still sticking out quite a ways. So we ended up, I heated it right here. We ended up bracing it down there, just put a board down at the point that we wanted to bend, and then we put a clamp at the top and just clamped this and brought it in. And we did it little by little until we had a good fit. I don't know if that's the way you do it, but that's how we did it. We had the same problem on the driver or the passenger door. So you can see we heated it here. We also on the front part, it was sticking out. So you can see right there, we had to heat that too and give it a little bend. But again, we've got nice gaps all the way around. Nice fit down by the rockers. So we can definitely live with this. Now these doors are not staying on. They have to come back off. There's a lot of work to do on the doors, but I know they fit. And this door in particular needs a whole bunch of work right down here, but we'll get that. So we move on. So we went over to French Lake Auto and went looking for some seat belts. I wanted black, and it's amazing how fast these things fade and how many cars have interior colored belts. So we saw a lot of red ones, beige ones, gray ones, not too many black, and most of the black ones on the older vehicles are really faded. So we ended up going over some slightly newer vehicles, and we found this set in an 08 Jeep Patriot. And I actually grabbed the rear seat belts, mainly because they just don't have as much wear and tear on them. And these had all the components we needed. So the next thing I need to do is sit down and figure out where this anchor is going to go for the shoulder strap. So I threw a little short seat out of my parts truck in here just because I want to get the positioning on that shoulder harness right. So I've got it clamped in up here. I just want to make sure it's not too low. So it's going to come across my shoulder like this. It's got plenty of height here, and if I was 6 inches taller, I think it would still be okay. So I think this is where I want this. I've already marked it up here in the pillar. So I've got the shoulder harness figured out. Now this retractor, I got to figure out where that goes. And in order to get the length of these belts right, I did notice when I took these out, that retractor was not down on the floor. It was actually up in the pillar. And it was up a little ways. So I've done a little bit of work and done some measuring. Let me see if I can pull this. Okay. This retractor needs to be up in here somewhere. So I've marked it here, and I'm going to have to put another plate, a support plate in there so I can bolt that retractor down. When we pulled those seat belts, I grabbed all the mounting hardware. And it's always a good idea to do that because you know it's good and strong, and I just have to adapt it to fit. So the shoulder harness, we'll use both of those. I made up a couple of support plates. So these are going to tuck up inside the pillar, and these are for the shoulder harness. And I welded a nut onto the back of that. So these will go right into there. And you notice there's a bit of a shoulder here. That's so that that guide can pivot, make it nice and easy. So this is going to go up into the pillar, and that will provide us plenty of strength for that mount point. Okay, this is a spot that we marked on the pillar where we want that, that mount point. So this plate has got to get tucked up inside of here. What I'll be doing is cutting just a hole just big enough that I can slide this in and get it lined up. I'll drill a hole up here and another one down here so I can weld this just to hold it in place. And then the piece I cut out of here, I'll keep track of that. And I can just weld that back in and clean it up. All right, here's the hole I cut in the pillar. There's the piece that came out. I'm going to save that and reuse it. Okay, now this is a piece that needs to drop in there. You can see I drilled a couple of holes for my plug welds, but I don't want to drop it in and have it go to the bottom because then I'm kind of sunk. So I just put a piece of string around this, put a huge washer on that won't drop through. Now I can just feed it in there. There we go, bring it up till it's centered. I'll work on it and then I'll plug weld it to hold it in place. We're tack welded here, so I got the plate in, and then I'll show you what I did here. I just opened up the hole on the center of this filler piece, and I'm just using my bolt to align that. So I'll get that centered up, aligned, and then I can weld this back in. All right, we're welded in. Now I just grind it off, and we'll see how it looks. All right, we're all ground up, cleaned off. Now, there we go. That screws into there, nice and sturdy. Now I've just got one more like this on the other side, and then another one for the retractor on each side. When you're putting in seat belts, you know, sometimes it's easy to just slap something together. It's a lot more work to do it this way, but there's no point in putting seat belts in if you don't take time to make sure they're going to do their job. So on all of these, you can see earlier that I put plates behind this so that it's got a lot of strength in all of those. I'm just finishing up down here now on the base mounts, and just to get an idea of what I'm putting in, I've got a plate with a nut welded on it. That's going to go up underneath here. So every single mount point is plated. All right, before I put these in, to show you how they worked out, I want to show you one little mistake I made. It was a fair amount of work to overcome, but I'm going to show you this real quick. So, here we go. I'm hooked up. Looks great. Problem is, it's stuck now, and I hear a ratcheting noise when I try to release it. So, there's something wrong there. And you can see as I release, you hear that? It just keeps ratcheting, and I can't get it to unlock. When it does that, what's happened is you've extended it all the way to the very end, and the only way to release it is to let it retract all the way in, then it'll release and reset. But here's the problem. There, it's all the way released, still won't go. Let me show you what I did wrong. So again, I can't get it to release, it's stuck. Problem is, I need to be able to let this in just a little bit more. I'm not fully retracted right now. And the problem is I mounted this too low. I needed to bring it up a little bit higher so it could retract. Let me show you how I handled that. All right, this is the first mounting location I had for the retractor. It's about 11 inches off of the seat pedestal. That's not high enough because in the original Jeep Patriot that I got these seat belts from, I know it was mounted a little bit higher, but I thought I could get away tucking it down here. So I ended up just abandoning this mount, and I had to make yet one more mount and move it up. I moved this one up to be on the safe side at about 22.5 inches. I probably could have got by somewhere down here, but I didn't want to take chances. So I mounted it up there, and now I'm going to move this retractor up to this point. Okay, now we're moved up to this higher point. Let me open it all the way again just to show you how it works. So once it opens up all the way, you hear that? And it won't release until it's retracted a significant amount of the webbing back into this unit. There, right there is far enough. And that should work now. The main thing is when I go to put the seatbelt on, I won't have to pull it out as far. It should never actually engage that ratcheting mechanism. All right, those are done. I got my anchors there. Got my shoulder strap and retractor all anchored in. Nice and solid. Operate nice and smoothly. The only thing that I would like to do with this, maybe a little bit later, is do something about this ugly retractor. This was originally behind a trim panel, so they didn't bother putting any kind of cover over this to make it look nice. So maybe I can dream up some sort of just a half circle plate I can put on there just to cover that up. Been working hard to get the rest of the interior done here so I don't have to get back in there and mess around. So I got all my braces cleaned up and primed on both sides so I can get those back in. I thought I'd pull out some more of the plates and covers from the inside and get those painted up. So we're working on that right now. And I've been working on the inside here. I got this all cleaned up, and this side had kind of almost like a rock guard or kind of a crusty surface, and I think that was just to kind of keep noise down. So I cleaned it up as best I could. I didn't go crazy because this will be hidden behind the seat. But I put on just some spray-on bedliner there to give it a little bit of thickness. And I'm going to do the same thing on the floor down here. This is already primed. I need to do some work there yet. And then up on the ceiling, I've primed that. That's going to get bedliner as well. And then just all up and around and under the dash here, I'm just going to shoot that all with self-etching primer. So basically, a coat of primer on everything. And then that's going to be it. Okay, we're done getting primer on the interior. You'll notice 2 different shades of primer. That's because I ran out. But I was able to get a good coat on everything. And I got my braces back in here. Now you'll see some overspray up on here. It really doesn't matter because when this gets painted, this whole cab, the whole interior cab is going to get shot. What I got left to do here before paint can go down on the interior anyway is to just get that bed liner down here, and up in there. All right, I got the bed liner on the floor. It's a little dark in there. And up on the ceiling. Let me just get a little light up here. There's still a pretty good echo in here. But that's all covered. And just for fun, let's look at it this way. I threw that gauge cluster back in, and in my last video, I showed how I put this thing together. It's nice to see it without all that shiny metal behind it so you can get a better look at it. So that looks good. I think the interior of the cab here is done now. And the next thing that happens on this is paint. One quick update before I close out the video. A little while ago, I bought a parts truck, and I have a video up on that truck. And I spent $650 on the truck, and I'm kind of keeping a countdown on how I recover my costs on that. So one of the first things I did is mounted the plow. It came with a snow plow. So I mounted that plow back on the truck, and I posted it up on Facebook, and I was able to sell that plow for $100. So I'm down to $550. I still have lots of other parts that I want to move off of that and parts I want to use. For example, I still have the pump for the plow. Now, I don't know if it works, but it looks complete right down to the control lever. And I still have that in hand. And I'm looking to get about $75 for that untested. So if anybody's looking for one of these pumps, hit me up in the comments and I'll get in touch with you. I'd like to thank you for joining me. If you'd like to see how we got to this point, you can scroll down into the comments and there's a link to a playlist for all of the videos on this project going back to the day I first brought it home. If you'd like to see progress going forward, you might want to hit that subscribe button, and hopefully my videos will pop up as I release them. Again, thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.